So we're going to go over a couple of hip mobilizations. This is going to be helpful for internal and external rotation of the hip. We'll also go over a mobilization that you can do for increasing your hip flexor mobility and inflexibility. So we have just again, a super band. So again, these are called super bands. They're also called assisted pull-up bands. You can find these on Amazon. Usually they're in a pack, but this is like a medium band, and I have it hooked up to a bench. You can also use the same thickness of a band, but you can use what's called like a door anchor. So these are like $6, $7 on Amazon, where you can place the door anchor in the door, close the door, and then you can hook the band right to this little loop here. So something that's super helpful. Or you can, if you go to the gym, you can use a squat rack or rig and just hook it up to that. So we'll demonstrate first with the right leg. I also have just like a foam pad, which can be really helpful as well when you're mobilizing, just so that you're not kneeling on the ground, right? So I'm going to give a little bit of tension here to this band. Now I have the band like pretty high up, like in the groin area, just so that it can give me a good distraction, what we call lateral distraction of the hip. So it helps to just create a little bit more movement there. So I'm going to pull away so that I can feel it pulling me, but I'm not falling over. If you were off balance, you can also use the kettlebell and just hold on to it, so it kind of gives you this like counterweight. And what we're going to do is think about digging your foot still into the ground, so I'm not picking up my foot, and I'm going to just bring my knee inside. So crossing midline, and this should be relatively passive. I'm not really forcing my knee in that area. I'm just driving it over. You can place your hand on top of your knee as well, or on your thigh, and just kind of, again, give like a little bit of overpressure, holding it for a few seconds, and then driving, activating your glute or side glute muscle to really bring that knee toward the wall. Sometimes, depending on what you're wearing, the band can slip a little bit, so you can always like put pressure there to make sure that it stays on. And then we're going to repeat that. I like to repeat about 5 to 10 times. It's really helpful to do like a little pre-test, post-test of what does my hip mobility feel like? What does it look like in certain positions? Give it a couple of mobilizations and see how much better it feels or how much better it looks. You'll get a video on how to do that as well. Good. So again, a couple times on each side. Now, a really great way to stretch out the hip flexor here in the front of the hip is to either get into this half kneeling position, nice tall posture, and then just tuck the tail a bit. You should feel a really good stretch in the front of the hip flexor. Again, we don't want to just lunge forward, because what we get here is back extension and not actually stretching the hip flexor. So here I feel a really good pull. If I wanted a little bit more of a stretch, what I could do is take this mobilizing band, place it up pretty high, just right underneath your glute. Pull back just a little bit. Nice tall posture. Little bit of a tuck. And that'll give you a really good stretch in the front of the hip that you can hold for 30 seconds to a minute. Repeat that for at least 2 minutes cumulatively. And repeat on both sides.